What happens when a duchess walks into the view thinking she can rewrite the past? You're about to find out. What was supposed to be a simple promo stop for Meghan Markle turned into one of the most explosive moments in daytime television history. An air clash so fierce it left even the hosts visibly shaken. And Behar doing something no one saw coming. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and sound off in the comments, because what you're about to hear might just change how you see the Duchess forever. The Hot Topics table was charged the moment cameras rolled. Producers had teased a special guest, and the studio audience was buzzing. Meghan Markle, dressed in a crisp cream blazer that practically whispered luxury, stepped into the spotlight with that practiced smile. The one splashed across 1,000 headlines. Phones were discreetly raised, despite the no-filming rule. Everyone sensed something big was coming. Behar, never one for small talk, leaned forward, that trademark glint in her eye. "Trouble, so Meghan," Joy began. "Casually, let's talk about your latest projects. But first, something's been bugging me." Meghan's smile flickered. Her hands found the arms of her chair. Whoopi Goldberg shot Joy a warning look, but it was too late. Behar was locked in. "You've spoken a lot about your struggles with the royal family, but some say you're playing the victim card. While still cashing in on the royal brand, how do you respond to critics who say you want it both ways?" A hush fell over the room. Meghan straightened, her media training kicking in. "Joy, speaking your truth isn't playing victim. When you've gone through what I have, staying silent means being complicit in your own oppression." That calm, wounded dignity. It had become her calling card. But Joy wasn't having it. "Speaking your truth is one thing," she shot back. "But when your truth shifts depending on which network you're on, people notice." The air turned ice-cold. Sunny Hostin fidgeted. Sarah N glanced between the two like a spectator at a match she couldn't keep up with. Meghan's smile had tightened. Her voice, more brittle now. "I'm not sure what you mean by shifting truths. I've been consistent." Joy didn't flinch, really. "On Oprah, you said you had no idea what you were walking into. But in your Netflix series, you said you researched everything. Which is it?" The shot was precise, meant to expose the contradiction in Meghan's public story. Meghan's face flushed. "Those aren't contradictions. Joy, you can study something and still not grasp the reality. No amount of research prepares you for the emotional toll." Her voice had risen. The California cool was cracking under the heat of the light sand. Joy's persistence, Whoopi, tried to redirect. "Let's shift gears. Your upcoming projects, Meghan." "I understand," but Joy wasn't letting go. "Just one more thing," she said, zeroing in. "You've said you felt silenced by the institution. But you've done interviews, written books, produced shows, started a podcast. How exactly were you silenced?" Even the camera operators froze. Meghan let out a short, clipped laugh, no humor in it. "Having opportunities to speak now doesn't erase years of suppression. The fact I'm here today doesn't negate what I endured." Her hands were trembling. Slightly. Whether it was anger or nerves was hard to tell. But Joy wasn't done. "Then help me understand this," she pressed. "You left for privacy, but then shared deeply personal texts, phone calls, conversations. You even narrated them. How do you reconcile that?" Boom. Meghan's eyes narrowed. The well-worn mask of victimhood slipped for just a second, and something sharper emerged. "I think you're deliberately misrepresenting things. Joy, there's a difference between sharing your story and having it distorted by others." Joy didn't miss a beat. "Is there, though?" she asked coolly. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you want to control the narrative, privacy when it benefits you, publicity when it helps. That's not how life works for the rest of us." Silence. Not a murmur in the audience. Even Sunny and Sarah looked like they'd stopped breathing. Meghan inhaled deeply, voice now trembling with something real. "I think you're being incredibly unfair." "You're sitting here attacking me," Meghan said, her voice tight, her composure fraying at the edges. "And you have no idea what it's like to live under that kind of scrutiny, to have every word twisted, every move dissected." Joy. Behar's eyes lit up, not with sympathy, but with the unmistakable thrill of confrontation. "But Meghan, sweetheart," she said, leaning in, voice cool and unrelenting, "you chose this life. No one forced you to marry into the royal family. And when it became too much, no one made you stay. What people struggle with is that you want sympathy for choices you made freely. The words hit like a slap dot. The air went dead silent. Meghan's face drained of color, save for 2 angry red spots blooming on her cheeks. Her hands clenched. In her lap were so tight her knuckles turned white. "I cannot believe," she whispered, barely audible. "You just said that to me." But there was nothing soft in her voice. Carried the weight of something ready to break. The panel froze. Even Whoopi looked alarmed now, realizing the moment had gone from heated to hazardous. But Joy didn't back down. If anything, she leaned in harder. "I'm just saying what millions of people are thinking," she said. "You had choices. You made them. And now you want the world to feel sorry for you because you didn't like the consequences." The gloves were off. Everyone in the studio felt it. A storm was about to hit, and then it did. Meghan stood. Abruptly, her chair nearly toppled over. Behind her, her cream blazer wrinkled from fists clenched along. Her eyes blazed. "How dare you sit there and minimize my trauma?" she snapped, voice cracking with fury. "You have no idea known what I went through, what my family went through." A gasp from the audience. Audible, real. This wasn't the polished Duchess from the documentaries. This was raw, real, and terrifying in its intensity. The other hosts looked stunned, except Joy. She looked satisfied. "Here we go again with the trauma card," she scoffed. "Meghan, people lose their homes, their jobs, their loved ones. You lived in a palace and couldn't handle some bad press." Meghan's voice turned jagged. "Bad press," she nearly shouted. "They tried to destroy me. They questioned my child's skin color. They pushed me to the brink of suicide. You call that bad press?" Her hands trembled so violently she gripped the back of her chair just to steady herself. Whoopi finally stepped in, voice calm but commanding. "Okay, let's all take a breath. This is getting out of hand." But Meghan shook her head, eyes locked on Whoopi now. "No, I'm done taking breaths. I'm done being told to calm down when I'm being attacked." She turned on the full panel, eyes burning. "Every single one of you sits here day after day preaching about women, supporting women. But the moment I walk through that door, you let her tear me apart." Sarah N. looked shaken, her usual warmth. "Gone, Meghan. Nobody's tearing you apart. Joy's just asking the questions people are already legitimate questions." Meghan cut in, voice sharp. "You think that was legitimate? Questioning if my trauma is real. Suggesting I asked to be racially abused. That's legitimate to you." She turned back to joy fire in her eyes. "You want to talk about choices? How about the choice to stay silent while they called my mother unspeakable names? The choice? To smile for cameras while the tabloids printed lies about me daily." Joy crossed her arms, leaning back, clearly reveling in the spectacle. "And the choice to sign multi-million-dollar deals while playing the victim. The choice to trash your husband's family on global TV. Those count as choices too, don't they?" Each word hit like a hammer. Meghan flinched not physically, but emotionally. Her face shifted from rage to disbelief to something almost broken. "You're twisting everything," she said, her voice barely holding steady, and for the first time all morning there was silence. Not just in the studio, but in Meghan's world, and something in her eyes suggested that silence might be the loudest sound she'd ever heard. "You're doing exactly what they did," Meghan said, her voice trembling with fury. "Who's they, Meghan?" Joy leaned in, already sensing blood in the water. "The British press? The royal family? Or is it just anyone who doesn't buy your version of events?" Sunny Hostin, who had remained silent through most of the clash, finally interjected nervously. "Joy, maybe we should know," Meghan cut her off. Eyes locked on Joy. Let her finish. Let her show everyone exactly who she really is. She turned and pointed a trembling finger at Joy. "You're no different from the tabloids. You brought me here under the guise of promoting my work, then ambushed me with a coordinated attack." Joy's brows lifted in theatrical disbelief. "A coordinated attack?" she repeated. "Honey, this is called journalism, something you might not be familiar with, since you're used to interviews where everyone just kisses your ring." Meghan's face drained of color, then flushed white-hot with fury. "Don't you dare patronize me," she said through gritted teeth. "I've faced tougher interviews than this at least they pretended to have some integrity." Joy stood, matching Meghan's intensity now, Integrity, she barked. Let's talk about integrity. Like maybe not airing your in-laws' dirty laundry on global television. Or not playing the race card every time someone dares criticize you. Silence. The words had dropped like a nuclear bomb. Even Joy seemed to sense she had stepped off the edge of the cliff, but pride wouldn't let her retreat. Meghan didn't move, didn't blink. Did you just say, I play the race card? She asked softly. The whisper carried more danger than any scream. Did you really just say that to me? She said, you bring up race in every interview, every speech, every doc. At some point, it stops sounding like justice and starts sounding like deflection. The air in the studio turned toxic. You could feel it. Meghan stood silent for a long, terrifying beat. Then finally, calmly, coldly, she spoke. To talk about deflection, Joy, let's talk about your history. Want to revisit some of the things you've said about black women? Or would that make you uncomfortable? Now it was Joy's turn to freeze. The co-hosts exchanged panicked glances. They were no longer on a talk show. They were watching careers dangle over a cliff. I've never, Joy started, but Meghan cut in, sharp as a blade. Never what? Never joked about black women's hair? Never dismissed conversations about racial bias in Hollywood? Never laughed when your comedian friends made racist cracks? Meghan had come prepared. Every word was a weapon. Joy flushed red. That's different. You know it is. That was comedy. Meghan pounced. Comedy is a free pass to be racist. That's your defense. She stepped forward now, slow and deliberate, like a predator circling wounded prey. The tables had turned visibly. Joy's confidence was unraveling. You're twisting things, she said, her voice rising. You always twist things to suit your narrative. Every time I speak, it's twisting. Every time I defend myself, it's playing a card. Tell me, Joy, what would it take for you to believe me? What evidence would ever be enough? Her wit, usually razor sharp, faltered. I never said your experiences weren't real. You called me a victim. You said I chose my trauma. And when I push back, you reduce it to a race card. So tell me, what am I allowed to say? The studio was silent. Members had stopped moving. No one dared breathe. Joy made one last desperate attempt. What I'm saying is, you walked into that royal life with your eyes wide open. And when it didn't turn out how you imagined, you burned it down. And now you expect everyone to applaud you for it. It hit Meghan like a punch to the chest. She staggered slightly. Her hand reached up to her, throat shaken, composed herself. And when she looked up, her voice was steady, lethal. You want to talk about burning things down, Joy? She said, stepping toward the table. Joy leaned back instinctively. Let's talk about your scorched earth, your credibility, your reputation, your basic decency. You sit here pretending to be some champion of women's rights, but the moment a woman walks in who threatens your power, you tear her apart like a vulture. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. You just showed the world exactly who you are. Joy opened her mouth to respond, but Meghan raised a single hand, and, for once, Joy Behar said nothing. I'm not finished, Meghan said, voice cutting through the silence like a blade. You accuse me of playing the victim, when what you've just done is the real performance. You've performed cruelty. You've performed envy. You've become the very thing that drove me out of one toxic system and straight into another. The studio was frozen. No one moved. Whoopi looked like she wanted to vanish beneath the desk. Sarah sat rigid, hands clenched. Sunny had silent tears slipping down her cheeks, but Meghan wasn't done. You want to know what the royal family taught me? She said, voice low and sharp. That bullies come in all shapes and sizes. That sometimes the most dangerous ones are the ones who smile while they're stabbing you in the back. And the only way to face a bully, she stepped closer, is to stand up to them. Though they were the same height, Meghan now towered over Joy. And Joy, pale and stunned. You just spent 20 minutes trying to destroy my character on national television. You questioned my trauma. You dismissed my pain. You accused me of monetizing my suffering. And now I'm the one overreacting. She turned to the camera, straightening. Her media training clicked in. Joy, snapping to life, pushed up from her chair. Nobody's trying to silence you, Meghan. We just wanted honest answers. Meghan turned back to her, and this time the fury in her eyes made Joy stumble back a step. You want honesty, she said. Here it is. You're a bitter, jealous woman who cannot stand that someone younger, more relevant, and more powerful walked onto your stage. Gasps from the audience. Even the camera crew looked up in disbelief. This was not just a meltdown. This was mutually assured destruction. "You're threatened by me because I represent everything you'll never be," Meghan said, voice rising. "I married a prince. I lived in a palace. I had a global platform and I gave it up, on my terms, not yours." Joy's face was now a deep, angry red. "You arrogant, self-absorbed," Meghan challenged. "Say it. Say what you really think. Stop hiding behind your fake journalism and your pretend concern for truth. Tell the audience what you really think of me." Joy opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked around the studio, realizing the trap had snapped shut. Anything she said now would end her career. But silence would end her credibility. So she chose pride. "I think you're someone who's never been held accountable for anything in your life, and you can't handle it when someone finally does." Meghan paused, then smiled a small, satisfied curve of the lips that was far more unnerving than her anger. "There it is," she said quietly. "The real Joy Behar. Not the feminist icon. Just a bitter gatekeeper who tears down any woman who threatens her spotlight." She walked back to her chair, calmly picked up her purse, and slung it over her shoulder. "Thank you, Joy," she said, her voice icy. "Thank you for showing me and everyone watching exactly what I've been dealing with my whole adult life. People like you are why I left the royal family." Joy was sputtering now, trying to regain control. "Can't just walk away from this. We're in the middle of an interview." Meghan turned back one last time, her expression devastating in its stillness. "Watch me." She started walking. Then Joy made her fatal mistake. "You know what?" she snapped. "I've had enough of this. Security," the word dropped. A bomb. The room went dead silent. Even the audience stopped breathing. Joy Behar on live television had just called security on Meghan Markle. Meghan froze. Her eyebrows lifted slightly, genuine disbelief flashing across her face. Then her expression shifted, softened into something almost like pity. "Really, Joy?" she said. "Calling security on a guest you invited?" She turned to the audience, then the crew, then the co-hosts. "This is what happens when a woman refuses to shrink, when she doesn't apologize for her success, or her story, or her voice." She looked back at Joy. "You didn't call security because I was a threat to this set. You called it because I was a threat to you." And with that, Meghan Markle walked off the set of The View without a single glance back. "I think that tells everyone everything they need to know about your professionalism," Meghan said coolly. Whoopi finally found her voice. "Joy, what are you doing?" "I'm ending this circus," Joy snapped, but her voice was unsteady. Now, the earlier fire dulled by panic. "I won't be spoken to like this on my show." Meghan laughed on out of rage this time, but with something dangerously close to amusement. It was the first time since the confrontation began that she looked almost relaxed. "Your show," she echoed, brow raised. "Joy, this is The View, not the Joy Behar Show, and congratulations because today you didn't just host the news, you became it." With that, she slung her purse over her shoulder and turned toward the exit, walking with the calm composure of someone who'd won a battle they never asked for, but refused to lose. "Don't you dare walk away from me," Joy screamed behind her, finally losing the last shred of control. "I'm not finished with you." Meghan stopped at the studio door. She turned back slowly. Her gaze locked on Joy, and when she spoke, her voice was low, steady, and terrifying. In its clarity, "Yes, Joy," she said, "you are finished with me, and after today, you might just be finished, period." She turned her eyes to the nearest camera still, rolling, and her media instincts kicked in, effortlessly finding the lens as if she were on the steps of Buckingham Palace. "To everyone watching at home," she said, voice clear, "remember what you saw here today. This is what happens when women tear each other down instead of lifting each other up. This is what it looks like when bitterness wears the mask of journalism, when ego dresses itself up as ethics, and with that, no more words." No glance back, Meghan Markle walked out. The door clicked shut behind her. Silence. Joy stood motionless beside the Hot Topics table, frozen like a monument to her own unraveling. The studio lights suddenly felt too bright, the air too still. Her co-hosts sat in stunned paralysis, no one daring to speak. Not even Sunny, who looked like she might cry. The cameras kept rolling just long enough to catch it. Joy Behar still standing, blinking in disbelief, finally realizing the scale of what she'd just done. She had called security on a guest. She had lost control of her own set, and in trying to humiliate Meghan Markle, she had set fire to her own career live in front of millions. As the camera finally cut to black, the unspoken truth echoed louder than anything said aloud. The View would never be the same again, and neither would Joy Behar. She hadn't just lost the argument. She had ended it by ending herself.